Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be counting down our top 10 coffees of 2022 list. Now this list will be broken down into two parts, with coffees 10 through 6, as well as our honorable mentions featured in today's video, and coffees 5 through 1 featured in tomorrow's video. We have a review of all of these coffees currently up on our channel, and we have two rules and restrictions for our top 10. The first of which is that we can only use the same coffee roaster twice, and the second is that we can only use the same coffee origin twice. When it comes to our honorable mentions list, there are no rules or restrictions. So let's go ahead and start discussing that honorable mentions list. And the first coffee we have is the Damo, a honey processed Ethiopian coffee from Blind Tiger Coffee. Next, we have the Jansen X600, a washed Panamanian coffee from Manhattan Coffee Roasters. Then we have the Kanda Estate, a washed Kenyan coffee from Luminous Coffee. Then we have the Lugma Pata, a wash processed Ecuadorian coffee from One Line Coffee. We have the Nebule WMX, a wash macerated processed Ecuadorian coffee from Colfea Circular. Then we have the Chantuine, a mosta processed Ethiopia from Kawa Coffee. And last we have the Wave NX, a natural processed Ecuador from Colfea Circular. All right, let's go ahead and start our top 10. And the first coffee we have is the Jonny Villegas, a wash processed Peru from Say. And a little bit of a spoiler alert, this is the only coffee featured from Say in this entire top 10. And this coffee definitely didn't act like a Peru in the traditional sense. This coffee definitely came out a lot more in the vibrant stone fruits direction. I think what really set this coffee apart and earned itself a spot in our top 10 list was the really wonderful clarity as well as vibrancy from this cup. A lot of the things within this review finished on the higher side of level 4. Very much acted like my type of coffee, and one of my favorite coffees I've had from Say in a little while. Say has definitely gone through some transition just within the past couple of months, and I haven't necessarily enjoyed their coffees as much recently. I feel like there's some things they need to work through, and maybe I will enjoy their coffees a little bit more in the future. But for now, this one was one of my favorite coffees of 2022. All right, next up, we have the La Colina, a wash processed Guatemala from the barn. And this right here was important because it showed how high a very standard Central American coffee can place, because this is about as perfect of a standard wash processed Central American coffee as I think I've ever reviewed on this channel. What really set this coffee apart was actually the clarity. This one scored a level 5 in terms of the cleanliness, and that is extremely rare for a coffee of this profile. I had to give the barn massive credit for this one right here, as I didn't think that a Guatemala was capable of being this good and earning this sort of position in our top 10 list. But it was that, the wonderful chocolate, and just a very defined profile within this coffee that earned itself the number 9 spot. All right, next up we have the Tapmara, a wash processed Ethiopia from Tim Wendelboe. And this one right here, it does go to show that natural processed coffees can still earn a spot in this top 10 list, as this is actually the only natural processed coffee we have in our top 10 itself. And I think Tim Wendelboe did a wonderful job with this coffee, as the clarity was really high and the berry fruit components in it were also very vibrant, strong, and for that reason, it made it one of my more enjoyable coffees of this year. It is interesting, you've kind of noticed that the first year we ever did a top 10 list, our first place finisher was a natural processed Ethiopia. And then last year we had a natural processed Ethiopia place number 5. And I think it's been kind of tricky because I've seen the decline of natural processed Ethiopian coffees in general. This one has been one of my favorites within the last couple of years, so that's massive credit to Tim Wendelboe. A lot of the coffees we reviewed from him this year were definitely on the better side of coffees I enjoyed. So this one right here being my favorite of the bunch, and probably my favorite since the Caballero Gesha back in 2020. So massive props to Tim Wendelboe on this one. Right, next up we have our number 7 coffee. And this one right here is the Buku Sayisa, a wash processed Ethiopia from Blind Tiger Coffee. And this does give me an opportunity to discuss Blind Tiger Coffee, a coffee roaster I would consider to be one of the more underrated American coffee roasters. And this right here is our highest placing Ethiopian coffee of the year. And I said the same thing last year, that I felt Ethiopia was having a down year. But again, I feel like Ethiopia was having another down year, as we only had, what was it 3 or 4? It looked like 4 Ethiopian coffees in the entirety of our list, including our honorable mentions list. And this one was the best of the bunch. but I don't want to downplay how much I enjoyed this coffee. And the fun fact about this coffee is I actually had this at a coffee shop before I ever purchased this bag, and I enjoyed it so much that I went out and purchased a bag of this coffee because of how much I enjoyed it. This one right here at its best had some wonderful, almost Panamanian geisha-like characteristics with a fruity pebble-like profile, as well as wonderful clarity, wonderful sweetness, and it went to show that Blind Tiger is definitely one of the more underrated coffee roasters, as they were able to compete with some of the more well-known and prestigious coffee roasters out there. Massive credit to Blind Tiger on this one. All right, and last for this video, and our 6th place finisher, we have a coffee that is probably very near and dear to me. It is the Karindundu, a wash processed Kenyan coffee from Sweet Bloom. And this one actually does kind of pain me because I imagine that this might be the last Sweet Bloom coffee that ever ends up on our top 10 coffees of the year list, as this right here was the last coffee I reviewed before they made the transition over from the San Franciscan coffee roaster to the Loring coffee roaster. And this epitomized everything I loved about Sweet Bloom and Kenyan coffees, and therefore it made it one of my favorite Kenyan coffees of my entire life, right up there with the Kianjege from Manhattan, as well as the Ruby Batian from Coffea Circular. Now, what made this coffee? Well, it had amazing clarity for a Kenyan coffee. It came out very sweet, very much within the candied profile. Those are the types of things I look for in Kenyan coffees, especially for Sweet Bloom Kenyan coffees, as this one right here really radiated all of the wonderful characteristics I so much enjoyed from Sweet Bloom's coffees, improved with every single cup, found wonderful sweetness just throughout the entire time drinking it, depth, complexity, and just an overall enjoyable cup. Not just one of my favorite coffees of the year, not just one of my favorite Kenyan coffees of the year, but one of my favorite Sweet Bloom coffees of all time. And I'm disappointed that they've made the transition because I haven't liked any of their coffees as much since that transition. But this was kind of a one final opportunity for me to enjoy what I found to be one of the very best coffee roasters for a very long time. All right, so this right here has been coffees 10 through 6, as well as our honorable mentions. Of course, we're going to be back tomorrow with coffees 5 through 1. If you guys have any thoughts of these current coffees as well as our honorable mentions, let me know. But of course, if you guys enjoy this content, give this video a like, subscribe if not already subscribed. This right here has been a first part of the top 10 coffees of 2022 list. Thank you for watching.